Old photographs from the 19th century hold a strange secret. They capture magnificent cities with monumental architecture, wide avenues, and perfectly designed squares. But these scenes are missing the most crucial element: life. Stay until the end, because we're going to show you the actual postcards that prove children were being sold like products. And you can verify these yourself in historical archives. A closer look reveals what a passing glance might miss. The cities are practically empty. Houses have chimneys, but no smoke rises, no warmth, no comfort inside. We see vast metropolises that should be bustling with thousands, yet photos show only one or two random passers-by, emphasizing the scale of ghostly emptiness. This unnatural emptiness raises disturbing questions. If these cities were abandoned, why? Where did their inhabitants disappear to, leaving behind entire metropolises in perfect condition? And most intriguingly, where did the new people come from to fill this void? Official history sidesteps these anomalies with explanations that don't hold up. It feels as if a whole layer of our past has been deliberately erased, but the key to solving it may lie in another massive event of that era: the sudden appearance of hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of orphans all over the world. In the 19th century, countless orphanages began springing up across the planet. Their scale is astonishing. One institution alone took in 4,500 infants, just one of many. A partial list names over 64 large orphanages in Great Britain alone, and that list is far from complete. The number of children left without parental care was so vast that researchers still can't determine real figures. How could such a colossal number of orphans appear at one single moment in history? Why did their stories vanish, erased from collective memory? Is this connected to the empty cities? What if these two phenomena, empty metropolises and countless orphans, are parts of a single global process hidden from us? A process that could be called a complete reset of civilization. This wave of orphanhood wasn't just tragic, it was incomprehensible in scale. Across Europe, America, Russia, and Australia, a global network was rapidly built to house the endless stream of parentless children. These weren't modest charity homes, but enormous buildings capable of holding thousands. Official history blames wars, industrial revolution, and disease. While these played a role, can they account for the colossal numbers? Wars leave localized tragedies. This was a global phenomenon lasting decades. If you add up all known conflicts and diseases, the numbers still don't match. Here, the two great mysteries merge into one disturbing picture. On one hand, majestic but lifeless cities. On the other, overflowing orphanages with children who have no past. What if this flood of orphans wasn't the problem, but the solution? Perhaps these children were the human resource needed to repopulate empty territories across the globe. The thought is monstrous, but it logically connects the unexplained emptiness with the unexplained abundance of young lives. And the story becomes even stranger when you look at how infants were treated in the New World. In America at the turn of the century, attitude toward children reached a new commercialized level, blurring the line between human being and commodity. At the center is Martin Cooney, a man official history celebrates as a hero, but whose activities are deeply unsettling. Cooney organized traveling exhibitions where the main attraction was premature babies. In amusement parks and World's Fairs, amidst rides and vendors, he set up intensive care units. Visitors could pay to enter a pavilion where tiny infants lay in rows of glass incubators. The atmosphere was surreal. Spectators looked at babies like any other attraction. Carnival barkers called for the public to see living dolls, while nurses cared for children as part of the show. Life-saving turned into profitable spectacle. But the most sinister part? At many fairs where Cooney exhibited, there were simultaneous eugenics expositions, the pseudoscience that would later form the basis for 20th century's darkest chapters. This ideology peacefully coexisted with a pavilion showcasing imperfect children. Why were these exhibits so popular? Official story claims Cooney saved around 80,000 babies. But where did such an unimaginable number come from? And whose parents were willing to hand them over to a showman? Was this conditioning society to the idea that a child is an object that can be displayed, evaluated, and acquired? While America was mesmerized by saving babies, a far more direct practice was developing in Europe, hidden in plain sight, disguised in the most innocent item of the time, the postcard. In the early 20th century, a whole genre appeared that today is baffling and disturbing. A massive series of postcards numbering in thousands, dedicated to babies. But these weren't typical sentimental portraits. These cards depicted surreal, terrifying scenes, as if from a strange dream. Children were shown emerging from cabbage patches, hatching from giant eggs, growing on mushrooms, floating in shells. They were transported by airship, trains, delivered by storks as if they were cargo. These images create persistent anxiety, as if they contain hidden meaning understood by contemporaries, but lost to us. When you try to find information about this phenomenon, you're met with deafening silence. It seems this part of history was deliberately hidden. There are no official catalogs or serious studies. The only vague mention admits little is known, but notes their influence on surrealist artists, including Salvador Dali. This information vacuum deepens the suspicion that we're looking at something far more significant than peculiar art. Gradual deciphering begins when you pay attention to details and inscriptions. Although most are in French, collections include American, German, and Dutch cards. This was international, even global. The inscriptions start to form a single shocking system. This wasn't random images, but a whole language understood worldwide. A language describing a process beyond our modern understanding of morality. At first glance, one might dismiss this as vintage humor. But what if we translate the captions literally, setting aside any assumption of metaphor? What we find has the power to overturn our understanding of what was considered normal just a century ago. The veil is torn away when we stop seeing these as metaphors and start reading them literally. The key is a simple but chilling phrase repeating on dozens of images. The French expression à vendre, which translates to for sale. This is not a hint or allegory. It is a direct announcement that turns a surreal scene into a commercial offer. Once this becomes clear, the entire collection is cast in sinister light. This wasn't art. These were catalogs. One card depicts a fairground scene under a sign reading, "Modern Baby Bazaar." Below are terms from any store. Free entry. We fear no competition. Everything is for sale. And the most chilling line, we do not accept returns. A no-return policy implying a child is a commodity that becomes the buyer's full responsibility. Another postcard showing babies among cabbages reads, "Choose. The little ones have just grown." The wording grown is more suited to describing a harvest than living people, but the height of commercial cynicism is on postcards where each child has a resume, a list of consumer qualities. Infants sit in baskets, each with a caption to persuade buyers, "I will be good, I won't wet the bed, I am cheerful, I will love you, I am cute." This is product description aimed at childless couples. It's a window into a disturbing era when children were treated as objects with features and a no-return policy. If you look into the faces of children depicted, it's unsettling. Many look unhappy, some are crying or frightened. There are images where children are locked in cages like pets for sale. One caption leaves no room for imagination. "Children for sale. Do you want a baby?" This isn't art. It's a marketplace. These postcards revealed the entire system, hinting not only at sale, but at the process of producing and delivering children. Popular folk images we see as harmless tales may have been a reflection of this global logistics network. If we accept the theory of global child trafficking, many myths and fairy tales take on disturbing meaning. What we've considered innocent explanations may be echoes of a real functioning system from the past. "You were found in a cabbage patch" is no longer just a fib. In postcards where children are shown growing in fields, the cabbage becomes a symbol of mass cultivation of a new generation, a metaphor for turning human life into a product cultivated on industrial scale. The image of a stork bringing a baby might be symbolic representation of a complex delivery network. Storks on old postcards are depicted as couriers, sometimes wearing uniform caps, carrying scales to weigh goods, or holding postmen's bags. They're part of a transportation system, along with trains, cars, and airships, all appearing as means of transporting large groups of infants. This theory finds chilling confirmation in real historical facts. Consider the orphan trains in the United States, running from mid-19th to early 20th century. Officially a social welfare program, but the scale is staggering. More than 200,000 children transported and distributed to farms and small towns in the Midwest. Were these trains humanitarian missions, or part of that same global logistics project depicted on postcards? An even more direct indication comes from postcards featuring the word repopulation. This term leaves no ambiguity. This isn't about caring for orphans. It's about deliberately settling territories. This word ties all pieces together. Empty cities needing inhabitants, mass appearance of orphans as a resource, and the developed system for their distribution and sale. If children were indeed cultivated in vast numbers and systematically distributed to settle cities left empty after catastrophe, it leads us to one final terrifying question, challenging our understanding of history itself. When all pieces fall into place, a picture emerges so vast and monstrous that the mind refuses to accept it. But facts stubbornly form a single logical chain. It begins with ghost-like metropolises of the 19th century, inherited from unknown predecessors and desperate for new population. This demographic vacuum is filled by a suddenly appearing source. Millions of orphans concentrated in a global network of orphanages, essentially becoming reservoirs of human resources. The connecting link, the proof, and the instruction manual are the postcards. They cease to be strange artifacts and become catalogs offering a product with descriptions and terms of sale. The entire system of folk myths about cabbage patches and stork couriers turns out to be symbolic cover for a real, well-oiled global program for cultivating and distributing new population. This leads us to one grand and terrifying hypothesis: the Great Reset. At some point in the past, a global catastrophe led to massive depopulation. Civilization had to be literally resettled, and children became the primary building material for this new world. In this context, even the most disturbing assumptions acquire dark logic. The incubators at World's Fairs may have been part of technology for mass nurturing, or even artificial cultivation. Images of children in training camps suggest this wasn't chaotic settlement, but a deliberate program to prepare future citizens with predefined social roles, obedient workers or loyal soldiers of a new order. Could it be that the most beloved children's fairy tales are actually cover-up for one of the darkest operations in human history? Is it possible our past hides a secret so profound that it was preferable to turn it into innocent myths so future generations would never ask uncomfortable questions? But I promised you something at the beginning. I said I'd show you how to verify these postcards yourself. Here's exactly what you need to do. Visit digital archive sites like the Library of Congress, Europeana, or the New York Public Library's digital collections. Search for Baby Postcards 1900s or French Baby Postcards. You'll find thousands of these images. Look for the inscriptions. Many will have à vendre clearly visible. Look for the commercial language. Modern Baby Bazaar, for sale, no returns accepted. Cross-reference the orphan train phenomenon. Official records are available through the National Orphan Train Complex. Read the primary sources. Look at the numbers. 200,000 children transported between 1854 and 1929. Ask yourself, where did all these children come from on such a massive scale during the same period these postcards were circulating? Examine photographs of empty 19th century cities. Search for 19th century city photographs in the same archives. Look at the grand architecture designed for thousands and count how many human figures you actually see. I've created a research guide with direct links to these archives, search terms that work, and a checklist of what to look for. It's in the description below. Download it, follow the steps, and see for yourself. Don't take my word for it. Look at the primary sources with your own eyes. Once you see these postcards yourself, once you read à vendre in an official archive, once you count the missing thousands in those empty city photographs, you can never unsee it. You become a witness to something hidden in plain sight for over a century. Share what you find in the comments. Post the archive links you discover. Compare notes with others who've done the research. Build a community of people who refuse to accept sanitized versions of history when the evidence tells a completely different story. This is what separates our channel from others. We don't ask you to believe, we ask you to investigate. We give you the method, the sources, and the tools. Because the truth isn't in what historians tell you, it's in the documents they've filed away and hoped you'd never examine. This investigation is just beginning. If you want to dive deeper into what else our history is hiding, subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. We're going to keep pulling back the curtain on the past, one archived document at a time. And with your help, we're building a movement of people who demand answers to the questions we're not supposed to ask. The postcards are real. The empty cities are real. The 200,000 orphan train children are real. Now you can prove it yourself.